Welcome to Rails, Ales, and Old Towns. For over 60 years, the Eurail Pass has been a staple on the European travel scene. Valid all over the continent, this all-you-can-ride ticket has ridden along on millions of once-in-a-lifetime adventures, sparking a serious case of wanderlust in countless travelers along the way. And I'm one of them. Ever since my first pass arrived in the mail back in the day, I've been hooked on the Eurail style of travel, and have packed it with me on numerous trips since. Today I'm joined by Hugo Van Vondelen from Eurail to talk about their passes and reflect on the romance of exploring Europe by rail. We have lots of fun sharing practical tips for those traveling with a pass, swapping tales from the trains, and sharing some of our favorite rail journeys in Europe. As you'll hear, the pass may have gone digital, but the magic of the experience is timeless. All right, let's hop aboard.
Follow the gap between the train and the platform.
All right, let's welcome to Rails, Ales, and Old Towns, Hugo Van Vondelen, product specialist at Eurail.
Thank you for having me.
I was going to say the iconic Eurail, but I thought maybe that was a bit too much. These rail passes, they're magical. They have a mystique about them. When you mention Eurail to people, they remember trips that they took. There's just that kind of a romance about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's also my first thought it's my job, but when I think about the Interrail pass in general, that's also my first thought. I would say the romance and the unlimited possibilities. From the moment you buy the pass, the world opens up, right?
We should probably say off the top, just in case there's a little bit of going back and forth, Eurail is the name of the pass to everyone outside of Europe. People who live in Europe, they have the same exact thing, but it's called Interrail.
Exactly.
I'll tell you my story. I'd never been to Europe before, and someone I was going to go with had just backed out on me. And so I was down to having to go by myself. And this guy, Jay, if you're listening, Jay, he pushed me over the edge. He's like, just buy a Eurail pass, buy a backpack, and just go. And like that advice, it stuck with me. I was like, okay, I'm going to get this Eurail pass. So I'd heard about it over the years. But then when I started looking into the details, I realized, all the freedom it gives you, essentially one pass, unlimited travel on countries that were up to how many countries now?
33.
33.
Yeah.
So I feel like Eurail is known, that people know about it, even if they've never used it. It's a pretty popular product. But if you don't mind just going through the quick basics of what it is, in case someone's tuning in and they've never even heard of it.
Yeah, so imagine you buy a Eurail or an Interrail pass. You just have one pass, which you can use, so up to 33 countries in Europe. So you can basically, from that point, you can basically go anywhere you want. In Europe, it offers great flexibility. There's some reservations you might have to make, but this is because high speed trains or night trains. It's basically one ticket for all of Europe, and in that way, I think that Interrail and Eurail is unique.
But sometimes you can't just literally show up and hop on the train. 98% of the time you can.
Yeah, there's always the possibility to take local trains, of course. You can always be flexible, where high-speed trains are way faster. So if you look at the bigger picture, almost everywhere you can travel flexible, and you don't have to buy reservations. But if you want to go fast, and sometimes that's needed, you're time constrained, then there could be an option that you have to reserve a seat. But there's always local trains as well in this direction. So then you're up for two choices, basically: pay a reservation or wait for a train that is available, or take a longer route, maybe even more scenic, and just take the local trains.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say as well, that like There might be some that require reservations, but if you want to go from Amsterdam all the way to Sicily and not pay a penny, you can do it.
Absolutely. And this is probably even more interesting than going the quick way, right? You will travel with the local people, you will see the landscape better. Mm, You will have to change trains in small towns and small train stations.
And one thing I love about Eurail too is the ability to maybe you know where you're gonna go. Okay. Because it is really romantic to think about going to Europe for a couple months or 3 weeks and not know where you're gonna go and just wander. But I don't know if that many people do it that way. But what is really nice, it's romantic to think of it, and I would love to do it that way. But people want to book their hotels, they want to know where they're gonna sleep, they know what destinations they're gonna go to. But what I love about Eurail is the ability to decide on what train you're gonna go on and what time, because
Yeah,
if you book 3 months in advance at home, oh, on a Tuesday, I'm going to go from Amsterdam to Paris at 9:48 in the morning. Well, that's a big commitment to that exact time. Where with the Eurail Pass, you could be out the night before, you might make some friends, you might stay out late, and you might want to sleep in a bit and go see something, and you can just take whatever train you want.
yeah, yeah. I think that sums it up pretty well. I've been into so many situations that I was traveling around, and then I met people, or I found the city way more interesting, or sometimes not interesting enough to stay longer, and then I just went further or stayed longer. That's something you can do, definitely.
If I had $1 for every time I've been like, I think I'm going to take that 7 a.m. train tomorrow. That was the plan. And then I ended up taking a train at 11. Well, with the Eurail Pass, it didn't matter. I just hopped on the later one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can still do that. For a big part of the network, you can you can hop on and hop off wherever you want and wherever you want to go. Especially if you want to travel in low season, for instance, so outside of summer season. But even in summer season, if you go a little bit more towards Central or Eastern Europe, you can be so flexible. It doesn't really matter where you go, actually. There's so many beautiful places to explore.
Are there any things that you would say that people don't know about Eurail or possibly common misconceptions?
In my bubble, everybody knows Interrail and Eurail and so on, but many people still have this misconception that it's only for young people, and it's something from the 70s or 80s.
Okay, so yeah, so we're here to set it straight. I mean, obviously, there's all these added benefits too. Like I've taken ferries across lakes in Switzerland. The lounges, I love the lounges. I see that you've spent some time at that lounge in Vienna at the new Hauptbahnhof there.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. It's a perfect place to sit down and relax before your train goes. Definitely. Especially in Austria, you can attend the lounges. Also in the Netherlands and in Denmark, there are many places where you can sit and relax.
Now
And
is that typically with the first class Eurail
yeah,
pass?
exactly. I want to say that this is only when you have a first class Interrail Ural pass.
And
Yeah.
I would say that that's the way to go personally.
To travel with the first class Interrail Ural pass.
Yes.
It's definitely the more comfortable way. That's for sure. But if you want to travel on a budget, I would say second class pass is also it's perfect value for money. Because not all trains, especially regional trains, if you want to go off the beaten track, some regional trains don't have first class compartments, for instance. So then definitely if you have a first class pass and you travel long distance, then it's super luxury and it's value for money, definitely.
And typically, you know, to someone listening who might not have ever been on the first class European train, well, it's not a different train, it's just a section of the train. a little more space, a little quieter.
Some trains they have a lot of luxury, such as the Railjet in Austria. The first they also have business class. There you get some complimentary drinks, and the seats you can even lay down a bit in the seats, so to say. And there are more examples, such as the Frecciarossa in Italy. They also have pretty luxury
Yes.
upper classes. Um,
Get a
so
cup.
especially if you travel long distance, then it's you can sometimes compare it with the airlines.
Okay.
Because that's what high speed trains are sometimes trying to do, right? Compete with the airlines. So they
I
have to keep
mean,
up their luxury products.
you just can't beat being served a complimentary espresso on a train in Italy.
True. Absolutely. You're
You're looking outside the window, you're looking at hill towns, you're looking down this like aquamarine river passing. You're just like, pinch me. Like, how am I here?
yeah, yeah. And then you get an Italian espresso. It's perfect.
I know that you can tour Europe by bus, and there's a lot of people that do it.
Yeah.
And you can rent a car, and there's a lot of people that do it. That makes me sad because it is not the European experience.
I agree. I would say trains are I don't know if they're European in the European identity, but well, for me they are. If I if I think about traveling in Europe, I think about traveling by train, and I think about sitting in a restaurant car somewhere, in a train in Czech Republic or in Hungary or in Germany, enjoying a coffee or enjoying a lunch, seeing the landscape pass by. For me, that is traveling. There's so much rails in Europe that you can go almost every region, I would say. For sure, it's not perfect everywhere, but you can go there and you will create amazing memories.
And I'm telling you, anyone who's listening, if you're coming to Europe, Europe is gorgeous. It's got great destinations. There's romantic cities, towns, all these things. Seeing Europe's rest stops, the petrol stations, that isn't the romantic part of Europe.
No, I completely agree.
You mentioned the dining car, so we might as well talk about that a little bit. You mentioned
But
Czech Republic.
so there's some dining cars in Europe, and they have draft beer.
Yes,
So
yes.
especially in Czech Republic, right? You'll get a fresh draft beer, and they will serve you freshly cooked meals. Also in Poland, in Hungary, in Czech Republic, they have pans on the stove, and they will cut the onions, they will cut the tomatoes, and they will cook you a meal.
It's crazy
It's
because it is almost like it shouldn't be still around in 2024, but you're being like let in on this magic of yesterday still.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Also the restaurants, the train restaurants, they feel like something that belongs to the past sometimes, but it's still there. So I always feel like when I'm there, I have to go there and have to enjoy it.
Let's
Yeah,
definitely give shout out here to the Czech train company here. They could have just stored up and stocked canned beer, but they care so much about pouring a good beer that they've got kegs and draft beer on a train, and they're
yeah,
pouring it and slicing off the top and doing it just like you'd get it in a pub in Prague
exactly,
or Olomouc or Český Krumlov or something.
exactly, exactly. Beer is so important in that country, probably, that they will have this service on a train. Definitely,
It would have been so easy to not do the whole thing.
it's probably easier, but it's priorities. It's service.
What are some other little things when you're on a Eurail adventure? When you come back home, what are those little moments that you remember the most?
So when I think about interrailing, I also think about opening the window, right, and enjoying the fresh air, looking outside, and watch how the train bends in a curve. I think for me, open windows are also belong to this train romance, and also the small towns we talked about, the little train stations. For example, in Slovenia, there's Zidani Most. I don't know if you know Zidani Most, but if you're in Slovenia, you need to go there. It's in the middle of a beautiful valley in Slovenia, and it's at the crossroads of three railway lines. So the railway lines, they all cross bridges there, and then there's a very small train station with a bar on the platform, so you can sit down there, watch international trains stop and pass by towards Zagreb, Ljubljana, Austria, Switzerland, name it.
Now
Um,
this is the kind of tips that I'm looking for.
yeah, it's such a beautiful small place, but every international train stops there for some reason because it's on the crossroads, and this this is something I would highly recommend if you're in Slovenia.
And what is the name again?
Zidani Most. Also, there's a funny thing around frequent train travelers, especially in Central Eastern Europe. They have these 7 days croissants, and this is something that you will get on a train, complimentary, mostly in night trains, right? And I wouldn't say it's very tasty because it's a packed croissant filled with chocolate um, or something else. But it's such a funny thing that you only see there. That when I see this in a shop, I always think about the night trains in Central Eastern Europe.
And even if it's a the complimentary snack, even if it's not the biggest or the most delicious, it's fun. Like when we took an overnight train a couple of years ago from Amsterdam to Vienna,
Yeah,
um, hadn't had the best night of sleep, but in the morning awoke and we're served the breakfast and we're sitting there looking out the window. There's a river to our left, and then you pass by that Melk Abbey,
yeah,
this
yeah.
just gorgeous yellow abbey up on a hill to the left. And I'm telling you, that little roll I had and little cold cuts meat, all of a sudden it just tasted even better.
Exactly. And I also think that so imagine you walk into Budapest train station, right? And you hear the sounds and the announcements and the echoing of the braking of the trains. You see people passing by with suitcases and everything. And then you see a train that is made out of five, six, seven different colors, and you just imagine where all these carriages are going to. I think that's also a beautiful view if you're just walking around or sitting there on a bench. I think that's something that I always remember.
So you talked about a misconception among some people that Eurailing and Interrailing is just for young people and that perhaps it disappeared after they grew up.
Yeah, exactly.
But what are some other things that, might have changed over the years or people might not realize? Because I know for a fact that also, the great Eurail pass that was only a paper pass now is also and mostly an app.
Yeah. So we still have the paper pass, and I have a stack of them at home from my past experiences. But right now the most sold product is the mobile pass. So we have an app, and in this app you can load the pass, and then of course there's the timetable in the app, and then you can connect the timetable with the trip you want to make, and that's basically your ticket connected to the pass you have, which the conductor can then of course check and see if it's valid and stuff. So this is basically the most popular product that we have now, the mobile pass.
I've only used the mobile pass once. And I was a little nervous because I was thinking, this has got to be very complicated to manage to work, but it worked like a charm 2 weeks
Yeah,
straight. Yeah, let's go through that a little bit. Like if someone is listening who has never had a Eurail pass and and you stop me if I say anything wrong, but basically, if you're going to go from, let's say, Innsbruck to Vienna,
Yeah.
basically the gist of it is you log on to the app, you
Yeah.
search for that journey, and then you essentially save that journey, and then it produces a QR code that then
Exactly.
on the train, when they come around and check, you've got the QR code.
Exactly. And then the conductor, they can check the QR code.
What I loved as well was that it gave you a map of your trip.
Yeah, like when you're traveling, but especially at the end of your trip, a map is created, and then you can see where you went and how many kilometers you traveled, how many trains you took, and so on. It's a nice souvenir to have on your phone at least.
What is the gap between the train and the platform?
Okay, well, I just wanted to take a second to say thanks for listening to Rails, Ales, and Old Towns. I hope you're enjoying this episode and that it's helping you get excited for your next European adventure. Be sure to check out the link in the episode description, because there you'll find all the information you need if you decide to follow up on the places and topics that came up on the show. Oh yeah, if you are digging the podcast and you had a spare minute, I'd be forever grateful if you were to leave a review or a rating on the platform you're listening on, as those little things do go a long way. And if you really want to get crazy, why not give me a follow on Instagram or Facebook at Rails, Ales, Old Towns. Back to the show.
What is the gap between the train and the platform?
Now, Eurail is not all rail.
True. We have a lot of railway carriers, right? And but we have one very big ferry company as well, called Attica, and Attica by itself owns a couple of ferry companies in Greece. Because of that, we created the Greek Island Pass. Because Attica, the ferry company, they're as much part of the pass as all the other railway companies. And the Greek islands, of course, they offer a great opportunity for people to explore even more. So with the Greek Island Pass, you can, if you buy the Greek Island Pass with international travel days, you can even sail from Italy to Greece, and then in Greece you can explore a lot of islands and interesting destinations.
Now, is the Greek Island Pass, is that a separate pass?
It's a separate pass. Yeah, it's so we have the global pass that is valid in all the countries, and next to that we also have one country passes that are valid only in one country. So you can buy one pass only for Italy, and then you'll travel for a week, for instance, through Italy. But then, of course, for the Greek Islands Pass, it's only valid in Greece and on some international trips in and out of Greece by ferry.
Unfortunately, somehow, through some terrible oversight, I've never made it to the Greek islands.
Me neither, unfortunately.
Something has gone wrong somewhere. Now, I'm hoping that one day soon, I'm hoping that someone's gonna be listening to this conversation on a plane over to Europe to get ready to start their Eurail adventure. So let's talk to that person and give some practical tips, just some universal tips in your experience of European rail travel.
I would say it doesn't matter where you go in Europe. Find the small towns and the small cities in each and every country. They are less busy. They're as beautiful as the capital. The people are generally more interested to talk to you, and you're gonna have a better experience in the smaller cities compared to the bigger ones, I would say. And of course, I understand that people want to see the highlights. I also want to see the highlights. But then, if you take a local train and you go to smaller towns or even secondary cities, you will already have a better picture of the country than only staying on the main routes and in the capitals.
Any examples you would recommend as a small town stop?
Small town stop, I would recommend Cheb in Czech Republic. It's on the border between Germany and Czech Republic, basically close to Nuremberg, between Nuremberg and Pilsen. Pilsen, the capital of beer, the beer city in Czech Republic, where the name Pils is from. This is a small town, but it's so beautiful and quiet. And it used to be a very big railway hub, because of the border and stuff. And now it's a little bit more sleepy, but super super beautiful to visit, especially in Central Europe. But there's so many beautiful small towns.
If you had a couple routes that you'd like to share with people about, that you definitely would recommend as scenic or fun, what would they be?
So one very special one is the trains to Sicily. So Sicily is an island, right? But their trains, the night train from Milan or from Rome to Palermo or Syracuse, they go on a ferry on the Strait of Messina. So the train is shunted and decoupled in different pieces and then shunted onto the ferry, and then you'll leave the train, you'll go to the deck, you'll sail across the Messina Strait towards Sicily, watch the scenery, the mountains and the sea, and then you'll board the train again and you'll go to the end destination. I think that's one of the most remarkable.
How long is that ferry crossing?
It's about half an hour, 45 minutes, as I recall. It's not that long, but it's super scenic, and you're able to walk off the train and then go to the deck. It's incredible.
You can take a train to an island. Yeah, only in Europe.
Yes, it's the only one that still exists. There used to be more. It's the only one remaining. One of my favorite routes, I would say, is the most scenic train ride in Europe. I would say is Belgrade to Bar. It's from Serbia to Montenegro. It crosses the mountains into southern Serbia and then into Montenegro. It crosses the highest railway bridge or viaduct in Europe, actually, in Montenegro. It's super scenic, deep valleys, high mountains. Open the windows and photograph and watch the scenery, I would say. Also, some old carriages, of course. So it's a bit of train romance as well.
That sounds like a perfect one because you're getting a little off the beaten path, but also getting some scenic train journey that if that was in Switzerland, everybody would know about it.
Yeah, yeah. This is I would say the Switzerland of the Balkans.
I love going from southern Germany through Austria to northern Italy. Just that change you get between down through the Brenner Pass into Italy. All of a sudden, the landscapes change, the plant life changes, and all of a sudden you're in Italy and you left Bavaria just a few hours before. That's really special.
Yeah, nice.
Any other tips?
I would say pack light. So if you're traveling around, and especially you want to travel with the backpack, because that's the easiest way to move around stairs and into trains, because train doors are not always made for big suitcases. So you wanna pack lightly because you need to walk into town sometimes as well for a few kilometers, and then you don't want to drag around kilos of luggage.
How long do you recommend getting to the station before your train?
It depends. I usually, especially when I take an international train, I'd like to be there 30 minutes in advance, especially if it's a big station, just to find my way, to already check the departure boards, maybe to buy a coffee just before departing, so you can have your relaxing moment when you sit down with a warm coffee, maybe a snack. I sit down on a bench, or if the train's already there, I just sit down in the train and wait for it to depart and watch the scene.
I would say I'll just always want to emphasize that these rail stations are there's so much going on there.
I could sometimes spend hours in there and just watch the scenery. Many big train stations, they have great restaurants with a view. You can Google the train station and see if there's a nice like old waiting room that is a restaurant that still has kind of the romantic old travel vibe. In Amsterdam, there's a great restaurant on the on the platform even. Well, with access to the platform. There's one in Paris as well. In Antwerp, there's one as well. There's many train stations with great restaurants.
Is this one in Amsterdam? Isn't this the one with the famous parrot?
There's a parrot. Yes, exactly.
I've seen pictures of it, and yeah, it looks like something out of an old movie. It's classic old interior design and the golden age of rail travel. But then right downstairs, you're in modern world.
You can see the trains pass by from the window.
The tip I'd like to share with people is, there's a lot going on those platforms, and on the platforms, there's a lot of times there'll be like a little diagram of the particular trains and what section of the train is the first class or the second class or the dining car, because you'd be surprised at how long these trains are sometimes. And
Yeah,
if you're
yeah,
on the other end and you got to walk through the entire
yeah,
train, so it's another reason to get there maybe 10 minutes early at least to
yeah.
see on the digital display under the where the destination is and where it's going, um, these little diagrams of the train.
Exactly. I think that's a very good tip. I always want to know where I need to stand on the platform in order just to board the train smoothly. Because sometimes it doesn't stop for very long, right? And it can be a super long train, and then if you have a lot of luggage, you need to go through the train.
Let's talk about night trains, because I know you've been on a few in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I love night trains. I think night trains are by far my most favorite mode of transport, or my most favorite trains to travel on. It's uh, it's such a romantic way of traveling, and it's time saving, and it can also be economic because you can save up on a hotel night, right? So um, and you travel through the night, so you will wake up in another country or in a completely different landscape than you used to see at night, which is sometimes a strange experience. Always great.
Didn't you recently, weren't you on one of those new night jet overnight trains, night trains from, was it Hamburg?
Yeah, right now the Austrian railways, they bought new night trains for their Nightjet brand. They now run from Vienna and Innsbruck to Hamburg. They combine somewhere in Germany at night. And they also run on Vienna Bregenz. It's a domestic route in Austria, and it's a state-of-the-art train. So they have something completely new, which is called mini cabins. It's basically pods. So you will sleep in your own very small room, like a capsule almost. It's not that small. You can sit up straight. You have a foldable table, and you can work with your laptop. The point is that you have your own personal space at the cost of a low-cost berth. Like usually you would share the cabin with 4 or 6 people, and for roughly the same price, you have your own small, tiny compartment. But for me, the night trains is such a romantic way of traveling. Falling asleep with the sounds of the wind and the rails. I always keep the curtains a little bit open so you can see the lights of the railway stations pass by while you lie in your bed, maybe listen to some music, and then you slowly fall asleep. I wouldn't say it's always a perfect night of sleep, but it's such a nice way also to talk to people. I always bring a 6 pack of beer with me so I can share some drinks or some food with the people I'm in the compartment with, or some people in the hallway. It's great to make friends for the trip as well.
Well, you're the person to be with on the train.
I think so. I'd like to think so. No.
Bringing a six-pack on just to share. What a guy. Well, you're never going to have trouble making friends when you're handing out beers in the hallway.
No, exactly. I can't guarantee they're cold though, but I do my best.
So when let's say it's a daytime train, when you walk up to one of those old school compartments, where there's three on each side and it has a sliding door,
Yeah.
are you happy when you get an empty one and you're by yourself? Or are you upset because you won't have anyone to talk to?
I think right now I'm above 30. I would say I'm happy with an empty one. Um, Especially when I can open the window and I can just watch the scenery by myself and get some fresh air. But sometimes you end up with people in your compartment and you think you want to be alone, but then actually you'll have a great trip because you can share stories and it can add a lot of value to your trip if you're with people in your compartment unexpectedly, of course, often.
I agree. I think the perfect thing is, let's say you're on a 6 hour train ride and the first few hours, nobody sits in there. And you're in this compartment, you've got it all to yourself. You're watching people come down the hall every time. Don't sit in here, don't sit in here. And they don't.
Yeah,
But then maybe the last 2 hours, somebody sits in there and you talk to them. Maybe that's the perfect.
exactly. I had this train in Poland. I came from Vilnius years ago, Lithuania, and then I was in Bialystok in Poland, and I boarded this train to Warsaw. The train was full, so I didn't get a seat on the train, so I just sat down in the dining car. The dining car was also full. A Polish guy just sat in front of me, and we both bought a beer and we started talking for 2 or 3 hours straight. I don't remember how long the trip took, but yeah, we shared some beers and a lot of stories. And of course, I don't even know the name of the guy, but I had a great trip, one of the best train rides of my life.
Nowadays, we feel like there's a need to, maybe be like, oh, let me get your Instagram or let me get your. Well, maybe it was cool that you just were friends for those 3 hours and
Exactly,
you went your own
exactly.
ways. If someone's thinking that they're on the fence about buying a Eurail pass, what would you say to them?
I would say just buy the Ural or Interrail pass and then make plans because it doesn't matter. You have the pass already, you have your tickets already, and then you can go anywhere you want in Europe. So even if you run into some trouble with hotel bookings or anything, you can switch countries or you can switch destinations as long as it's within one of those 33 countries that you can explore. It doesn't matter. There's unlimited possibilities, I would say.
Hugo, thanks so much for joining me. And hopefully, we'll meet up in the dining car or I'll run into you and you'll be handing out a can of beer in the hallway.
I will make sure I do this all the time from now on.